A special need is a challenge that interferes with one's learning. It requires support that goes beyond the norm. Sometimes, real superheroes live in the hearts of small children fighting for big battles. And those are the special children that need special education. Special education, also known as special need education or aided education, is the practice of educating students with special educational needs in a way that addresses their individual differences. That means, ideally, this process involves an individually planned and systematically monitored arrangements of teaching procedures, adapted equipment and materials, and accessible settings.
These interventions are designed to help learners with special needs achieve a higher level of personal self-sufficiency and success in school in their community. Special education programs are carefully designed in such a way that they are customized to address every individual student's unique needs. These students are assessed to understand their strengths and weaknesses. Schools that under of special education are different from regular schools. These schools are designed and staffed to cater to students with unique needs. Unlike regular schools that have one approach to education, schools under special education provide specialized learning that meets students' unique needs. These special schools may provide 1. Individualized education plan, which is developed to ensure students with disabilities will receive specialized instruction for learning. Number 2. Small class size, which is important for the teacher to easily monitor and give proper and distributed attention to the students. Number 3. Low teacher-to-student ratios. In this school, the ratio of teacher to students is relatively low, which means there are only 8 students in a classroom or less, unlike the regular schools that have usual 1:15 students or higher. Number 4, especially trained teachers are trained to handle students with disabilities and commonly have the following characteristics or traits, such as huge patience, empathy, resourceful, collaborative communicator, and self-oriented. Number 5, self-contained classroom, meaning the teacher is the only one who teaches, provides, and responsible for the instruction of all academic subjects given to special students. Number 6, resource room is usually where the specialized education takes place and specialized to provide an environment that is suitable for students with special needs. Number 7, tutoring programs for additional learning support. Number 8, academic and psychological counsel. These activities include diagnostics, psychological diagnostics, special educational diagnostics, diagnostics concerning supporting measures for pupils with special educational needs, specification of recommendation of relevant supporting measures, assistance in their implementation and practice, and continuous monitoring of their effectiveness. And lastly, number 9, special education aides work alongside special education teachers and or therapists to teach children with emotional behavior disorders, intellectual disabilities, problems with communication, or physical disabilities. Let's go on now with the categories of children with special needs.
Number 1 is autism. Autism pertains to a complicated condition that includes problems with behavior and communication. Autism is also called as an autism spectrum disorder or ASD. ASD can be classified into a minor condition or disability that needs full-time care in a special facility. Children with autism have problems when it comes to communicating. They have trouble understanding what other people think and feel. With that, it's hard for them to express themselves through gestures or actions, through words, through facial expressions, or through touch. Also, children with autism might have problems when it comes to learning because their skills and abilities might develop unevenly. A poor classroom environment is a big disadvantage for all autism children. It can cause difficulty in engaging in learning activities and coping with daily life. That's why, as a teacher, it is crucial to be aware of the different educational implications of autism and how to adopt effective autism teaching methods. Through integrating suitable learning styles and alleviating any discomfort in the classroom, it will enable the students or the children to take part in learning more comfortably and be better prepared for their future. Number 2 is deaf blindness. The word deaf blindness may seem if a person cannot hear or see at all. The term actually describes a person who has some degrees of loss in both vision and hearing. The amount of loss, either in vision or hearing, may vary from person to person. Our nation's Special Education Law, IDEA, stands for Individual with Disabilities Education Act, defines deaf blindness as concomitant or simultaneous hearing and visual impairments, the combination of which causes severe communication and other developmental and educational needs that cannot be accommodated in a special education program solely for children with deafness or children with blindness. Children with deaf blindness have unique educational needs. Although they are deaf, the adaptation needed for their learning styles are differ from the child who was only deaf. Although they are blind, the adaptation needed for their learning style are differ from the child who are only blind. And teacher without specific training in the area of deaf blindness may be unable to appropriately teach, help, and support students under this condition to meet their needs. Number 3 is deafness. Basically, deafness defined as a partial or complete hearing loss. Deaf or hard-hearing people can experience anything from a very mild up to a total loss of hearing. Communicating in a hearing world is one of the main problems encountered by deaf people. Many deaf people, whether born deaf or becomes deaf, must learn sign language as a means to communicate, whereas sign language is a system of communication using visual gestures or signs. Number 4 is developmental delay. Generally, developmental delay is defined as a slow to meet or not reaching one or more milestone in an area of development, such as in communication, cognition, socio-emotional, or even adaptive skills, in an expected way for a child age. The child's slow development may not be associated with a developmental condition or a specific diagnosis. Under Individual with Disabilities Education Act, child with developmental delay may eligible to receive an early intervention or special education or related services if they meet certain federal or state criteria. Number 5 is emotional disturbance. According to Individual with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA, emotional disturbance is a condition in which a child exhibits one or more of the following characteristics over the long period of time and of a marked degree that adversely affect child's educational performance. First, emotionally disturbed children have an ability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. Second, they will have a tendency to display inappropriate behavior or feelings in response to a normal situation. Third, they may have a pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression. Fourth, they may be inclined to develop negative physical symptoms or fears related to personal or school problems. And lastly, they may be unable to develop appropriate, satisfactory relationship with family, peers, and adults in a school system.
So, the next category is hearing impairment. Hearing impairment as a disability category is similar to the category of deafness, but it is not the same. Hearing impairment is defined by IDEA as an impairment in hearing, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Thus, Knowing the definition of deafness is necessary to understand what sort of disabilities are considered hearing impairments. A hearing loss above 90 decibels is generally considered deafness, which means that a hearing loss below 90 decibels is classified as a hearing impairment. The next one is intellectual disability. It is once called mental retardation, which is characterized by below average intelligence or mental ability and a lack of skills necessary for day-to-day living. It involves problems with general mental abilities that affect functioning in two areas, the intellectual functioning and adaptive functioning. Kids with intellectual disabilities may have impairments in reasoning, planning, abstract thought, judgment, academic judgment, and experiential learning. So the next one is multiple disabilities. It is simply that the student has more than one disability. According to the IDEA, multiple disabilities refers to concomitant simultaneous impairments such as intellectual disability blindness, intellectual disability orthopedic impairment, and etc., which is the combination of which causes such severe educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in a special education program solely for one of the impairments. The term does not include deaf blindness. So in other words, a student whose special needs are categorized under multiple disabilities requires coinciding adoptions for more than one disability. The exception is the combination deafness and blindness, as this pair of impairments has its own classification under IDEA. So, the ninth is orthopedic impairment. It is defined by the IDEA as a severe orthopedic impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. IDEA specifies that this term includes impairments caused by a congenital anomaly and impairments from other causes. So, in short, orthopedic impairments involve physical disabilities which could affect the academic process, and an evaluation is required for a disability to be classified as an orthopedic impairment.
Number 10 is other health impairment. It is considered also that the children needs a special attention when they have very limited strength, vitality, or alertness, and even heightened alertness that is being extremely sensitive to their environment that has a negative effect on the child's performance in schools. We can handle them in a way of being considerate and being informed on what medical conditions they have. Maybe less physical activities and more on recitations, or anything that does not involve any physical activities. 11. Specific learning disability. It is a disorder in one or more psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in the imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, and write. So we can handle them in a way of focusing on what child's strength to overcome his disability. The disability that child has is his weaknesses. So focus on your students where they excel in a specific area so you can help them improve their strength while overcoming their weaknesses. 12. Speech or language impairment. A communication disorder such as stuttering, language impairment, or voice impairment that has an effect on the child's performance in schools. So we can handle them in a way of encourage them to speak and accept all forms of communications. Give them confidence when speaking in public and avoid asking them to repeat mispronounced words and finish the sentence for them. 13. Trauma brain injury. It is an acquired injury caused by external physical force resulting on total or partial functional disability that has an effect on the child's educational performance. So we can handle them in a way of encourage them to use schedules or checklists to assist them in organizing informations daily. Do not give a full load of assignments. Break it into a smaller part so they can adapt the learnings easily. The last one is a visual impairment including blindness. It is an impairment in vision that, even with correction, it greatly impacts the child's performance in schools. The term includes both partial sight and blindness. So we can handle them in a way of encourage them to listen to the voice of the teacher that is currently speaking in front, teach them to turn their bodies and face the speakers while seated, and teach them how to raise hand when they want to talk.
Those are the categories of children with special needs and challenges. Moreover, these challenges can differ in their severity or in how much they impair learning. As future educators, we just need to accept, embrace, and provide the things they needed. We just have to create a world of happiness with them and believe in things that others cannot yet see. Thank you.